and welcome to Thursday Nighter Round 4 for the month of October. I am Michael Perry, and I am pleased to be joined by National Master Oke. For this month, our player profile, for this week I should say, is John Blomer. He has a peak rating of 2150, and as we announced last week, he is the recent winner of the Midwest Clash Champs. His best wins include Andrew Titus, Jordan Tim several times, David Schaubert, Jason Duncan, Todd Andrews, Charles Campbell, and Dane Zagar, Michael Perry, and Chris Zweber. So pleased to be covering John tonight. He is throwing it down with Jacob Pikus, a rising player. So that should be a fun game to look over.
Yeah, let's get into it. So John started with d4. Jacob responded with g6, so a threat to go to the modern or King's Indian. You can do transpose to a lot of different things. And at least at this point, John suggests that we won't be seeing a Grunfeld. And I don't know if this is the one. Maybe the move order is correct, but I think this looks like a Jingju Hash really special. But this move order seems interesting. So I wonder if e5 is even playable here. If there's any trap or whatnot. But John plays quickly, as this is wont, and now he's steering the game into same-ish setup against the King's Indian. Okay. So far, an interesting opening position. White is already enjoying a small trump on the queen side with pressure against the a7 pawn, half open a file, and his king is relatively safe in the center for now. So we'll see how Jacob intends to deal with this set of problems for himself. And okay, which is interesting. The choice between knight g3 and knight c3. I might have been a bit partial towards knight c3, but knight g3 seems to work, especially if he's going to play like an h4, h5 idea. Oh, Jacob goes for h5 himself. So now all of a sudden it's iffy. So it seems as if on first glance maybe Jacob could try for h4, h3, but it's not clear if he has his pieces positioned well enough to make that work.
Yeah, I even think h4 is a bit of a weakness.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is
like that pawn could easily get picked off.
Exactly. I mean, especially in a situation where you have the queen and bishop already on the c1 h6 diagonal, that if he doesn't play h3 himself and the pawn is fixed on h4, it could be problematic. But that might be a theoretical issue, because at the moment he's not really ready to play h3. And if he plays h3, maybe white just plays g3 and then rounds up that pawn. So I'm not sure. It's maybe accidentally John induced a small weakness from his opponent, because now this position is looking very comfortable for white maybe too comfortable. See, that's what we all aspire to, getting the fianchetted queen. And I'm not necessarily kidding. The great Richard Reddy used to try, and Nimzovich for his part, would love to get these positions where you fianchetto the queen to one corner or the other. Now, the time situation, for normal sort of combatants would suggest that, well, white is very, very well prepared, but it seems, no, this is just John being John, playing uber quickly. And it makes sense. His position is just very, 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 very pleasant. Pretty much black has almost no play here.
Yeah, and on move, let's see, I don't want to be skipping ahead here, but yeah, very interesting game. John definitely has the space advantage, but yeah, if we go back a move or two, it seemed like he just could have won that pawn on d4, but maybe he decided to be patient and
Yeah,
wait.
I thought winning the pawn on d4 was actually more to the point, or maybe playing b4 first, just to keep the c. For example, starting to keep the c5, the knight away from c5. So if he plays b4 here,
Yeah,
I
I
could
think
try
I even
this. Yeah.
actually just prefer rook d1 right away. So if we go to move 24 here, he played rook
So rook
fa1.
d1.
Yeah, just rook d1 right away. I'm not so worried about knight c5 because I think we just play b4 anyways, and then we kind of win a tempo because I don't think the
Oh
knight can
yeah.
really advance forward in any useful way. But yeah, if we just go rook
Mm-hmm.
d1 right away, like I kind of get, I'm guessing John's reasoning was, well, I can always win that pawn. That pawn's super weak, but you're not really, yeah, like you didn't need to play rook. You didn't need to
So you
double up on
probably
the
should play
a5 because
here.
yeah, because he's not really threatening to play a5 anyways. I mean, he played it like he was, but
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And in fact, I think that yeah, rook d. I like rook d1, and if here that it seems as if white at least should consider this move, and that pawn's going to get this pawn is going to get recaptured, I think, with a similar tactic to what Jacob did in the game. Um, the way the game went, actually, after a5, there's an argument to now go back to capture that d pawn instead of playing ba6. So maybe going here at this moment might have something going for it. Let's see. Let's take a look at what John did, because the way this went, it seemed as if well, he's kind of still tied in knots. I'm not going to say that Jacob is happy here. Okay. The breakthrough, which is a fearsome weapon indeed, especially when it's combined to overworked pieces like the knight on c7. So interesting. And maybe it's a stylistic thing. I probably would have pushed ahead, but then now that I look at it, pushing ahead might not be as effective as just exchanging off and going for that knight. Is he just giving a... Oh, okay, the bishop's hanging. So he goes there, and then goes... Oh, and now there's a fork. Yikes. This guy is so mean. This John guy. He could have just, I don't know, been up a piece for a pawn, but no, he's going to make him suffer.
Yeah, and where it gets frustrating is when he has his 90 minutes still and you have 30 seconds.
Exactly. So okay. Poor Jacob. He got blitzkrieged by John. Um, yeah, let's take a look and see where he went wrong. I mean, I think it was a bit loosey goosey in the opening to allow White such a massive advantage in space on the queen side. Um, yeah, maybe he needs to be looking for a way to get f5 in, but it doesn't seem as if there's a clear way. I don't know if it works right now, but then it would seem as if that might also increase the danger to Black's king. So if
Yeah,
we, yeah,
sorry. Yeah, to me, where the pivotal point was, and I'm probably zooming ahead a bit, but just scrolling through the game, especially towards the end, where he had a slightly worse position, but he probably could have come back. But like kind of towards the end, kind of towards move 30, he played Rook FB8, which to me seems a little bit off. I feel like he kind of has to, it doesn't look pretty, but I think you might just have to sacrifice the two pieces for the Rook and just say, okay,
yes,
this pin's really annoying. I'm gonna try to get out of it and then play the game from there. Because he not only didn't get out of it, but he moved his F rook into the way of his A rook. So now his A rook really can't get out of the pin. And then
yes,
John played knight c5, and then you're just winning a piece. So yeah,
yeah, it just didn't work out. Um, yeah, the Rook B8, and I'm now understanding what Jacob's idea probably was with Rook FB8. He was maybe thinking of getting his Rook to B6 and then withdrawing his Rook on A somewhere else, but it just turns out it's too slow. So if John hadn't come up with the energetic E5 and instead played something, I don't know, silly like this, now he comes here and he's free to spring this guy because now the knight on A6 is covered twice. So if now this happens, then maybe he even goes, well, I think he can just capture. It's still not simple, but yeah, there's something like this might be survivable. But time is an important factor in chess, and so if John striking with E5 didn't give Jacob the chance to consolidate, and yeah, things went downhill. Another reminder of um, tactics and time being so much more important in some ways than general knowledge of strategy, and that the strategy of getting the rook to b6 seemed fine if there was enough time for it. And in this case, there just wasn't. So, all right, well, John doing a quick. I'm happy. I found a way to keep off John's list of best wins by just not playing against him. And I'm not saying I've been bribing TDs to make sure I don't get paired against him. I just have not been. I've been fortunate enough to meet him in his current form. So I'm sure that day is coming.
that day is coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So all right, let's move along and see. Maybe we'll start from the top board. We've got Dane versus Nathan, and this has significant ramifications for the final standings. I believe Dane's ahead by a point over the field.
I'll look into that.
Okay. So, hmm, Benko. And Dane goes with his favorite fianchetto approach against the Benko. Actually had a game in this position recently, tournament in Wheeling. Let's see what improvement Dane has come up with.
Yeah, Dane is on a perfect score. He beat Robert, he beat Connor, and then he beat Jordan. So he's hoping to. I mean, if he could go somehow 5 out of 5 this month, that would be a huge rating gain for him, and would probably get him pretty close to Masters. That'd definitely be
Yeah,
cool to see.
quite. This is a neat idea of sorts. So, although it looks as if Dane he might have let Nate get a bit much out of this position. We'll see how it goes, but at the moment, so I was thinking that when Dane went on his adventure with knight e4 and knight g5, that he was being a bit careless, allowing c4 to happen, but then he had this prepared, keeping two connected pawns, and then I suppose assuming he'd find a way to keep the c pawn, black c pawn, from being dangerous. But then when this seemed necessary, now I'm wondering if, I suppose he can play a5 if anything, if there's any threat to the a4 pawn. Yeah, so like that, because otherwise, if the queen was still on d1 and he had to defend with, so say something like, if he had gone here initially, a nice mistake to make would be this, trying to defend this guy, but then falling to this. And that's a nice way to lose a rook. So Dane was alert to that possibility. And now it's going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough game. Is the c3 pawn a strength or a weakness? Are the white A and B pawns strengths or weaknesses? Is this guy going to be a tactical liability at some moment? Maybe Dane's going to have to bring this knight back to f3. Hopefully boot out this guy, or at least make him choose a side, and then start uncoiling into position. And for Nate's part, he needs to maintain the blockade of these pawns on these squares. Otherwise, if they're allowed to move forward, then they might be worth more than a piece. Okay, let's go to, this one should probably be an exciting one. We've got Jordan versus Connor. There is a position that I don't know if it's exactly like this. In the London with the 2b4 move order, I think it's called the Morris Gambit. Let me see if I'm not sure, but I think it's something like this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then white responds with this crazy move. Yeah, I believe it's the Morris Gambit. Now, I don't know if it's logical for this to transpose like so.
No, I think it definitely is. That could make sense.
Yeah. So yeah, because this is exactly the same position. But Connor decides to turn it into a French, which is probably maybe something I'd consider too. Except for the captures on d5 with his knight, which may be more active, but also gives up some influence in the center. And he's offering a queen swap. Oh. And all of a sudden, it's seeming as if. Oh, okay. So they both are kind of maybe happy. It's possible that White's a bit happier since he's better developed and Black's queen's exposed, so that'll cost an extra tempo or 3. Tricky. So I guess he's looking to trap Her Highness on b4. And Connor is not fully impressed. Now, intakes.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave for just a quick moment here and restart my
Oh,
computer.
okay.
I'm just having some trouble seeing the screen share you're seeing, so it's kind of hard for me to follow along. But I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. All right. So Connor plays a6. The reason he doesn't play to capture this pawn is because of bishop uh, d6, winning at least an exchange. And so he decides to prevent the pawn from moving forward by playing a6. And now I think it's fair to say that Jordan has a bit of a bind on the position. It's hard to get, well, I guess he'll have to play e5 in order to get the bishop into play, which then weakens Black's control over d5. So it was going to be a bit of a tough one. Interesting. Ah, the tactics. So he's now threatening the rook on e8 as well as the bishop on f5, and there's a back rank issue, which is why he can't just capture. And that's checkmate. So Connor's forced to step back, which then allows rook d6, which is a very active way of continuing. So it's a bishop. So he's a pawn up, but they have bishops of opposite colors, and so it's important. Having initiative is a bit more important than the pawn extra. And so Jordan is going to focus on keeping his pieces as active as possible so that if there is an attack, he's the one who's going to be attacking. In general, in these sort of positions, the side attacking in a bishop of opposite color position tends to have the advantage. Okay, now White is ready to make his extra pawn be felt. And Black is saying, not so fast, and if you're going to do it, it'll be on my terms. So, okay. Jordan responds to Connor's attempt to gain the initiative by making an attack of his own, which is actually kind of difficult to deal with, while maintaining the threat against the c4 pawn. So now he has gained a tempo, because that bishop is probably going to want to go back to e6 to pressure, or maybe not. We'll see. Well, he does go to e6. Now bishop c5. And this is actually pretty clever. So he wants to be able to put enough pressure on the position that Black feels compelled to improve the pawn structure for him, is what it seems like.
Yeah, I think bishop c5 was just a multi-purpose move. He had to defend c4, but he also didn't want Connor to play rook d6 and get his rook in. So it just kind of, right now it seems kind of like a battle over the d file.
Yes. Rook d7, king c3. And now, with, I feel, very clever maneuvering, White is close to winning. All he needs is rook a1, and it's over. And he finds it.
Oh no! Wait,
Now
but
the
there's
question
that.
is, yeah. Well, there was also a question of, I don't know if this is working, if rook d2 is working or not. I mean, you never know. This could happen. I mean, that's not winning, but
no, that just looks bad for Black. I think he would just go back to rook d3 and try to force a draw, but Jordan probably wouldn't want that.
Most likely not. So that's bishop c8. And Jordan really wants his pawns corrected so that they're nice and clean. So clean, so fresh. And under the circumstances, Connor didn't have much of a choice. And now the pawns are ready for takeoff.
You know, I could be just completely crazy, but I wonder if there's a claim to be made to just let that pawn die. Like, what's worse for Black? To have White have the pass c pawn, which, you know, they're kind of connected. They're not both pass pawns, but to White have a c pawn, pass c pawn, or for White to be up a pawn and have doubled pass pawns. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder if there's a...
Yeah.
I wonder if you can make an argument to just let that b pawn die.
Yes. Yes, there is an argument, I think, that can be made in that regard. In fact, maybe in this position, oh, it's not working. Oh, it actually is working. Maybe this is a possibility.
Yeah, maybe that. You're threatening g2 as well.
And yeah, and if you try something like this here, then we have this, and Black is constructing some sort of fortress, maybe.
Yeah. No, Jordan. Yeah, no, bishop e7 looks like a good try.
I'm
gonna put that into the engine and see what it says.
Oh, okay. But yeah, correcting the pawns just seemed to make White's life a bit easier, although it's still not trivial to win, and I think that's important to note. There's also an argument at this point, and I don't know if he considered it at all, to give up the pawn now and play bishop e6. What do you think about that idea, Michael?
Bishop e6, the two top lines of the engine are the move Connor play, that's the top line, and then the second move is the move you suggested, bishop e6, and they're essentially the same. White
Okay.
shows that, not to spoil it for the viewers, but yeah, it's those are the two top moves of the
So
computer. So
H4 is still fine then, is what
yeah,
is
h4 is
what.
fine, bishop e6 is fine, and also just taking the pawn on c4 like Connor did is fine. So apparently the computer is fine with white just going up that pawn.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. Now maybe. Actually, maybe we're looking at a different position. So you're talking about at this point, bishop e6 was the move at this point here,
Yes,
or
move
is it
37, I believe it was.
move 37? Okay, okay. Because I think here, yeah, I think if you're doing this, combining with bishop c4 at this moment, I think is with bishop e6. Sorry, at this moment might be the thing, just so that it's impossible for white to defend this guy.
Yeah.
By playing h4, it gave white a tempo to get bishop e3 in, which then means that the rook can defend the c4 pawn when the bishop, if the bishop were to get to e6.
I feel like that's a move he would have looked at. I'm guessing he didn't play it, just maybe he's worried about b5. In that position we were just on, if bishop e6, b5, bishop
At this
takes
moment,
c4. No, instead of h4, you were suggesting, yeah, bishop e6. So yeah, this moment, he's probably worried about b5. Maybe that's why he didn't play it.
b5 here.
Yeah, because that pawn's very. Uh, does it get stopped? I mean, bishop takes b6. His b6, he hangs on to the pawn, and if bishop takes c4, takes a6. I guess the rook comes back in time. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably does. So rook here, maybe, maybe there. Oh, this looks kind of sad, but it's probably holding.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Um. So yeah, so maybe that's his idea, but leaving the c pawn alive, I think, made his life even more. Okay, so this is where we are currently, and I should note. Well, I guess they're both fast players. Jordan actually has only 41 minutes left.
That's a bit surprising.
Yes. So, all right. Well, while they're battling out, we'll see what's going on with Eddie and John Heyer. Okay, it looks like Eddie took out his fury on John in this one. So it's a closed Sicilian. Well, I'm not sure where the closed Sicilian stops at the Grand Prix, but okay, whatever. It's not an open Sicilian. And so back in the day, there was discussion on, I think it was in this kind of position where white might have this fearsome looking pawn sack. Ooh, that's spicy. Oh, Eddie. Eddie's bringing the spice here. So, oh, nice. So, this is when we talk about grabbing and maintaining the initiative, this is what the textbooks are talking about. As much as possible, he's using every move to ensure that John isn't allowed to settle into the position. And we'll probably have to go back to see exactly how we got to this.
That bishop is just very sad. Ooh, especially now.
Yes. So that pawn um, won't be easily digested. I don't know if the spike check queen e3 would have made things any better. But yeah, he's losing an exchange now. And I guess now does a check, but doesn't really make much of a difference, I don't think. Okay, this is just mean. Now Eddie has mate in a couple, right? Yep. Queen take knight takes f6, check followed by mate in 2. Wow, that was a very active game by Eddie. He just maybe this is more of a blitzkrieg than the other John's game.
Yeah, I would say so.
This is just ouch. Let's take a look at this again. So
Yeah.
all right, so far no moves. Now you probably have more understanding of these positions than me. Is a6 normal there?
You know, I couldn't tell you exactly because I face Sicilian a decent bit, but usually my opponents don't play d6 and e6. They usually play one or the other. So this is an opening
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as familiar with.
Okay. Yeah, but I remember that Boris Spassky on his way up would, people used to think that this was not a very strong opening, and he would create these masterful attacks, slow, steady, just bringing the horde to the opponent. I think it was might have been his match against Yefim Geller that he just clobbered Geller with that. It was like their chosen battlefield, this kind of position. Anyhow, yeah, let's see the moment. Maybe it's around here. That and what I should do is maybe check the master's database to see where John went off the rails. So yeah, a6 felt suspicious to me because it seems as if he's giving up a tempo in order to allow white to damage his pawn structure. So he's losing two things and getting almost nothing in return. And yeah, so it's probably not a surprise that in the two games that actually reached this position in the Masters database, white won. Okay, so now we get to this. All right. And yeah, I just can't, I'm not sure where black improves. It just seems as if once Eddie was able to get the first few blows at maybe knight b6. Maybe knight b4 has to be considered. But then if knight
Before we had
b4,
a3, yeah.
a3, and then it's lost. So this position is just very nasty.
I think maybe, yeah, it's a little bit, what's the word, innocuous. But I think maybe instead of putting the knight on d5, instead of playing bishop e7, what move was that? That was move 8. Maybe he just should have played d5.
Yes,
Just
that
to,
might be an argument.
just to kind of reinforce the idea that, okay, you took my knight on c3. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I've doubled c pawns and a little bit extra space in the center and on the wings. So let's just kind of take advantage of the center. And even though you're out developing me, the center's closed, so you can't really take advantage of it.
Yes, that seems to be a logical a logical way, because allowing e5 there just seemed like the knight just doesn't seem to have any good retreats. Maybe even after this, knight d7. I mean, it looks ugly as all get out. Yeah, but I think maybe d5 in this position. D5 is in bishop e7. So yeah, after losing the tempo with a6 and a lot of this pawn structure, it's interesting because you say, oh, the position, it looks kind of closed in the middle, but Eddie definitely understood his assignment here was to attack the weak pawn complex as quickly as possible and just keep on attacking and not letting up for a second.
Yeah, no, Eddie played a great game. Really, really well played.
I mean, d4 is just a star move.
Yeah. I mean, that's the advantage of disadvantage of doubled pawns. They don't have a buddy right next to them to support them.
Yes. And yeah, after this, I thought, well, maybe Eddie's letting him off the hook. But nope. And c5 is also a really, it's easy to forget that your advantage is based on how ineffective the opponent's pieces are. And c5 just bottles up that bishop, which means that the rook on b8 is tied down to babysitting him, which means that the rook on a8 can't get out of the garage. So White basically needs to figure out where they're going to strike, and the most obvious weakness in Black's position is that bishop on b7, which is c5 is set up to take advantage of with knight here. And all of a sudden, the queen can't get back to d7 in time. And maybe you'd say, oh, well, maybe we exchange defenders of the bishop exchange defenders of the bishop by playing here so we can move this rook away. But I believe that probably still doesn't work because this is still hanging. And so I just missed that. So then,
yeah, and even if they play queen e3, then they lose control of the b8 square. So if they play queen e3 first check,
yeah,
then
so
you're
queen
just
e3,
you're
here,
still in a threat, and knight takes e6. Yeah,
exactly, because now you have this, and yeah, it's just ugly.
I think this was a nice game, partially in fact because it kind of showed the concept of tactics leading to strategic advantage. So Eddie was never was up material until he won that really poor bishop on b7, but he used the tactic of b4 to to threaten the c5 fork and other such shenanigans in the center to get such a kind of a lockdown on the position. So I just think really nice play from Eddie, just taking advantage of one or two slight missteps from John. Kind of like last week's game actually, when Jordan lost, not Jordan, when Connor beat Eddie in a game where Eddie made a couple kind of mishaps in the opening, and Connor took advantage of it. And this game seems kind of like the reversal.
Yes, as if Eddie learned his lesson well and decided to implement what he learned on John Heyer. Cool. Well, that was a refreshing game. So that's our leading contender for game of the week. Let's take a look at David's Atelbars versus Thomas Babcock. And so we got here. Oh, okay. The Fianchetto against King's Indian. So White is looking to dominate the d5 square. Black could consider trying to dominate the d4 square, but the good thing for White is he still has his e-pawn in reserve to defend that square if needed with e3. So at the moment, oh, that's an interesting one. So it looks like a pseudo sack. Maybe there's more to it. We'll see.
I'm taking that pawn. Yeah, take it and
That's
trap
the
the
idea.
rook.
Yeah, let's see if you can trap the rook here. Um, maybe, yeah, this is going to be an interesting battle. Can that rook get out of there alive?
I think you
So
have to
queen
stop
b6.
queen b6. So maybe we start with knight d5. Oh no. Wait a sec. How is this? Isn't black just winning already? Huh.
It seems like black is winning. It seems as if that rook isn't getting out of these blues alive. Yeah, there's no. I mean, maybe knight a4 and keep the queen off of b6 and c5, but then oh yeah, that might be a way. So maybe knight a4. This is like completely
Sad.
sad. So maybe okay, so then maybe queen c7. So let's prepare bishop d7. And maybe
Yeah.
he's in time for this. He might just be in time for that. But even if you can do knight thinking of that knight, does the rook have safe squares? So let's see. So we have this.
I wonder if this could somehow be prep by David's, because I mean I wouldn't think so, but he hasn't spent too much time, and we're not right off the bat seeing a way to trap the rook. But it just
Yeah,
it doesn't feel right. So I would assume it's not
yeah,
prep, but
this.
we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been any. This could be prep actually. In fact, okay, this has to be prep. I just looked in the game database, and two complete wikis can be found in this position. Um, Sergei Karyakin and Alexander Grischuk, two of the elite grandmasters in the world at the time and still today, were playing this game. And yeah, there were two games in this position. White won both times. So this is interesting.
This is
Now,
fascinating. This is why our viewers tune in. But wait, rook takes a7. There's no game found. It's only up until move 13 after black plays knight takes b4 that we have those two
Queen
games between
d3.
Ariak and Grishik. Yeah,
Yes,
queen b3
Queen
looks like is
d3
getting the nod.
is the move. Yeah, so let's see what the differences are. Oh, for one, this isn't working.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean,
And
even after
if,
rook takes a7, white is just up plus 0.8 according to my engine.
oh, interesting.
Wow.
So the key here is to see how, and maybe the idea is knight a4, or maybe, well, let's see what happens with David's bishop a3. Maybe this works. I feel kind of dubious about it, but chess doesn't care about your feelings. How about that?
No,
Um,
it definitely doesn't. But I guess his point is, yeah, is if queen b6, bishop takes b4, queen takes a7, bishop takes d6, and you're forking the rooks. So he does have a point to it.
huh, this is so at the end of all of that, what's going on? Black has a small but important deficiency. Sorry, black has, which is that his pawn on b7 might find itself under attack from in a frontal fashion as we're seeing now with rook b3. And it doesn't look like that, but it's actually an isolated backward pawn.
Yeah. No, I think why the computer likes this is it's just such an easy position to play for white. You have a great bishop on
Yeah.
g2 that's
This is actually a brilliant conception, I think. This and I know if it's all prep, then that's it. The fact that if it is all prep, it doesn't make it less
against.
Yeah, it doesn't make it less impressive to me. I think that doing your homework to get to this position, which is possible considering, as you mentioned, the time situation. What? Oh, this guy. So he's going to take advantage of the pin against the pawn on b7. And now he's going to say, well, my knight might not be the better of your bishop right now, but you still have a weak b7 pawn, and your d6 pawn is backwards. Maybe you'll be able to play d5 right away. That might be something to consider for black. But he plays bishop g7, and now I should use a term. Well, since it's connected to a hopefully well-known popular culture thing, the chess equivalent of the soup Nazi is saying no d5 for you. So I think Davids is going to be enjoying this position for the next 100 moves with almost zero counterplay for Thomas. Yeah. Now so the knight gets to d5, and all other things being considered, white can fall asleep and wake up with a winning position. Well, actually, he has a winning position as is. But okay, this is not going to be fun for National Master Babcock at all. Although he's starting to, I don't know, somehow. Oh, is this working? Wow. So he somehow managed to get something going. Although even
I might still prefer white.
Yeah, I still prefer white here. Even with the pawn, even with exchange up, black position does not look nice at all. I mean, I don't know whether he should be looking to play rook e8 or rook a8. Maybe rook e8 because it's more forcing.
Well, here we're threatening knight f6 check, so he kind of has to play rook f8.
So if rook e8 and then knight f6 check and the rook takes, and okay, there's no perpetual actually. So yes, I guess he has to play rook, or at least consider rook rook b f8, or maybe queen d8 probably. Yeah, white is still dominating in this position. I'm not even sure
it's definitely a bit of a mishap, I'm sure, by Davids. I'm guessing he didn't sacrifice his rook there for the piece on purpose.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I mean, was this because when he played rook e6, I was like, oh, that seems. I was thinking in my head that seems kind of loosey goosey because of this bishop e5 idea, and so maybe this rook takes e5 was a sacrifice of necessity, and it just so happens that his position is so strong that it doesn't matter that he's nominally and exchange down. Oh, this is well, I actually want to go over this game later, and fortunately, they still have some chess to be played. So we'll saunter over to some other games.
Yeah, that game could go on a while because I don't see a quick win for David's.
Yes. All right, let's take a look at how Dane was able to secure his first place in this month's Thursday Nighter, as it turned out that game finished in a win for him. So, as I mentioned, Dane recently had to show skill against the Benko, and so I thought it would be interesting to see what ideas it come with. And at this point, I was feeling kind of concerned for his position, thinking that maybe he had allowed Black to get too much play. Oh, well, what do I know? He sacrifices, he allows his B2, his E2 pawn to be taken by playing F5. F5 is actually very, very double-edged, but probably necessary.
Yeah, I was looking at F5 before we left. I'm like, that might be a good try. You have the queen lined up, you know.
Mm-hmm. This is actually, wow,
What do you do? I mean, bishop takes E2. Can you even just take that guy on G6 and say, eat my rook, I'm going to checkmate you?
that's a question. And I guess the answer that that Dane came up with was, yes, I can. All right, let's calculate this. So what's going on here? So if bishop E2, for example, sorry, bishop D3, what a what?
I mean,
Is there a checkmate here? Is the question.
yeah, bishop D3 does seem to be quite annoying for white. Maybe, oh, the point must be queen D1 at some point.
Oh, leaving both rooks hanging. Oh,
Yeah,
this would be sweet. So then maybe he has to play. Oh, and if he plays pawn takes here.
Yeah, we probably have to take the pawn first for
Yeah.
as white. As white takes F7 check, and then
Oh, okay.
maybe.
So, wait, sorry.
And white, you
So
don't
we're
have
looking
really
at
any
this,
good.
and
Yeah, then
here,
bishop
and
D3.
here.
And in white, you don't have good options. Maybe we play king G7 because if we go to F8, then we could get checked with the knight on like E6. And if
There's
we
a
go to the
96
H
in this
file,
position right here, though.
oh, true, there's knight
There's a
there as well.
knight there
I didn't want to go to the
right
H
away.
file because after, yeah, I didn't want to go to the H file because after queen D1, then we can, the white's starting queen H5 with check. But, and now the bishop's hanging on D4.
Oh, somehow, I think Dane might have looked at these lines.
And if
Wow.
knight E5, I think bishop F4, we can keep leaving our rook hanging. And it's just checkmate if they're not careful.
Yeah. This is, wow. This must have been a very well calculated. Oh. Bam.
Or just the exact opposite of what we were calculating for the last 5 minutes.
Let's go here. So cool. He played f6, which on the surface seems like it made some sense, but Dane has seen even further. And what was your theme regarding tactics? I think you can repeat that again for this game.
Oh, good strategy leads to good tactics.
This is, yeah, everything just seems to work. So bid5 allows the queen access to d1 if it needs it, right? Because the bishop has to go back. And let's say he had played queen here instead, then I believe we could probably maybe get queen d1 to work or queen e4. Queen
Queen
d1.
d1, queen e4, queen f5, I think as well looks
Yes, all of these
good.
look. All of these look. But queen here seems to be maybe the most direct.
Well, if we count, what happens after? I guess we're saying the bishop too, because I'm gonna say, okay, what if black plays bishop e5?
So we play bishop e5, then we come in through here,
And then we play knight f8.
then knight f8, and then here.
Oh, I
Oh,
missed queen f7. Ah, nice, nice, nice.
yeah.
Yep,
Or
that's
we
it.
could even, I mean, this is a bit slower, but maybe it still works. Trying to drag the knight away. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have
that
any
should work too.
desperados. Yeah, but I think this is probably getting the business done right here.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, well, let's see though. Let's not
Oh,
say
there's
that
king
for sure.
h8.
Because it's
Yeah.
king h8. Um,
Maybe we can play knight e6 and rook h5, rook f5.
yes.
We probably have to bother with taking the knight first, because if we just play rook f5 right away, then there's knight g7, and then we can't play rook h5.
Yes.
But
So maybe there. So actually, with this in mind, maybe it just makes sense to play it this way. It seems a little less complicated. Just
yeah,
remove
true.
the remove the. Now maybe he responds with f5 to give his bishop access to g7. But I think okay, we could close the trap with this. Now, if this happens, oh, if this happens, this isn't working because of this. And it turns out the bishop's pinned, right? So,
Yeah.
so then if that's the case, and he plays here instead, then we just have the simple checkmate. So it seems as if um, maybe taking that annoying knight made sense for black because he's now allowing his bishop on d4 to be part of the defense, I guess. And Dane just keeps on coming in. And at this point, there seems to be no defense, at least none I can find. In fact, can you imagine that White has this crazy position for free. I mean,
What do you mean?
the material's even, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, true. Dead even.
Excitement. The
Yeah.
material's even, but position is not. The position is decidedly wow. So this seems to. I mean, these guys, the protagonists of this battle, have played quite a few interesting games. It seems as if the um, Dana's had the advantage recently, and he's actually had a couple of memorable, brilliant type games like this against Nate. I think Nate has had his fair share of victories as well, but yeah, never a dull game between these guys. So let's see. Let's see what's going on in. Are these guys still fighting? They're still fighting. Okay, let's quickly look at. Well, not quickly, but take a look at some of the games on the open section boards. So, excuse me, uh, Daniel Steinke. He's not been on the broadcast for some weeks now, I think.
Yeah, no, it's been a few weeks, but good to see him back on one of the DGT boards.
This seems wrong somehow. I think Black might have gotten away with something. I don't know. I mean, okay, White has a better position anyway, but it seemed as if here. Oh, yeah, I think this seems a bit off. I don't know why. I guess feels off. But okay. The opening probably isn't what decided this game. Wow, this is very logical and crushing. What exactly is Black to do here?
It seems like a bit of a premature resign, but it kind of makes sense considering that White's just on a kind of, as Levy would say, just have Pac-Man eating up all the
Yes,
pawns.
yes. This is definitely a
So,
Pac-Man position.
and White's
So,
knight is, I mean, once you win the C7 pawn, White's knight is just completely uncontested. So I can kind of understand the resignation from Norman.
yes, Norman's resignation. I don't feel his resignation is premature. I mean, I suppose you could consider it premature if if you have some masochistic tendencies. I suppose he could fight maybe after here. I don't know. I don't. Maybe even play. Because I'm looking to see if you can get a mating net going here. We'll follow Levy's advice and not bother with mate when we can win a pawn, right? I guess I guess go Pac-Man on him. So yeah, that was pretty clean by Daniel. And so we have Juan Carlos Perez versus Nanika Tutica, and see what happened there. Another e4, e5, and I'm a bit partial to this bishop e7 thing. I think it's called the Hungarian, and when I was younger, I used to play that very happily. Oh, that seems a bit suspect. Okay, now Juan has succeeded in getting a nice looking Ruy Lopez position, where not only does he have the makings of the normal torture with d4 coming at some moment, or just playing for kingside advantage, he also has the bishop pair. And Black's knight is dim out there on the rim on a5. So already one has an advantage, I think a more preferable position. And after that, I think it's he could go for an ending, I think, with knight h5, but okay. He could also go for more. So now with b4, he's trying to get a clamp on the queen side, and I suspect his plans include playing a4 at some moment. Maybe he might want to redirect his bishop to b3 and put pressure on f7, and then he's just attacking all sides of the board and stretching Black's defenses. So Nainika decides to deal with the pin against the knight. And now I think she's run out of ideas.
Yeah, I don't understand the going back and forth.
I think she just wasn't sure what to do. And now with this a5, a4, I mean, a5 I think was okay, but you combine that with a takes b, maybe you get the chance to bring some life to your position by giving at least one piece a hope of threatening something, right? With rook a3, and now, I mean, White's position is still very strong, but if one doesn't want to lose material immediately, he'll have to distract that. The rook would have to be distracted away from the center with that. By closing the queen side, it's not like it's automatically losing, but the problem is it's closing it from Black's standpoint. It's hard for Black to open the queen side profitably from this position. Meanwhile, White could decide to open up on the queen side to their advantage later on, while also maintaining the threats on the king side. So one plays in the center, and it just so happens that this is already a threat because the rook on d1 is vis-a-vis the queen on d8. So then bishop f8 happens, so as to allow the rook to defend e5. And this is a bit slow, but no harm, no foul. Black's position is just almost untenable. And if you have any doubts about the problems Black is dealing with, ask this knight where it can safely go to.
Yeah, and right now White is actually even, I think, White missed a tactic. They can just play knight h6 check.
Yeah, that's what I thought they were going to play, was knight h6, and then and it's just a very nasty position, but okay.
It's just over.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take, then it leads to you having to sack your queen, and if you don't take, you lose the queen anyways.
Say hello. Is the line that Michael was alluding to. And so, yeah, that would just win it right away. Rook e1, I get it if one didn't see the idea. Maybe after the broadcast, his radar will go up for that idea in the future. But yeah, that's a very nice sequence. And rook c7 isn't really addressing the major problems. And now he sees it. Okay. So it's not as if he couldn't see it. He actually saw it a move late. You could have played it immediately. And now maybe it's not as strong because maybe there's this argument, but okay, this is just nasty.
Yeah, we still
Um,
just take on f7.
yeah.
I
I don't
think,
know.
yeah, that's
Bishop
just,
here.
yeah, no, that's it's good too. I think for Nanika earlier in the game, she could have. I know she was kind of hesitant, maybe she didn't know what to play here exactly, but when she was kind of going back with the rook to
Oh,
e8
when
and
she went back
f8.
and forth. Yeah, so
Yeah, e8 and f8, and then bishop e7. I think at some point here, you just need to blast with d5.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
what that does is it gets you more space, and especially in a position where you're kind of feeling a little cramped, white's putting pressure on you on the king side, you need to expand. And not only do you get some space, what the space means is that now your bishop can actually kind of free itself. So maybe even here on, kind of even initially when all this started, the first kind of move that looked a little weird was when she played bishop f8. And I get it, she was worried about knight f5. Um, but if we just play d5 here on move 14 for black, and then if the white knight hops into f5, I don't even think we have to be worried about any knight takes e7, queen takes e7, bishop g5 stuff, because those doubled pawns don't really worry me if white has to give up the queen to get those doubled pawns. So I think that would have been better for Nanika.
yes. I think in general in these sort of positions, if so, one of the nicknames for the Ruy Lopez is the Spanish torture, and um, part of it is because of games like this where if black does not play actively, he or she can find themselves in a really miserable position for a very long time. White doesn't have to force anything. The position just seems to just expand on its own. And so it's imperative not to allow the, well, you might not be able to avoid the snake bite, but you do need to try and do something before the poison sets in fully. And so, as Michael says, I think working towards getting play, you need to figure out where on the board you're going to play. And the king side really isn't black's territory. The queen side, maybe, but that's a bit slow. But if you create a distraction in the center, white usually has to respect that and can't just play willy-nilly. And once you can get that going, then your chances of creating some kind of fight increase. And you don't hurry to reduce the tension, say by playing d5, if that isn't going to benefit you. You keep the tension as long as you can, and hope that white makes exchanges where they benefit you. I mean, if you don't have a choice, go ahead and make the changes. I don't know, maybe even here, bishop f8 might be useful. And then you play g6 if allowed. And then bishop g7 and set up that fianchetto position might be a plan. But after you've gotten d5 in. And later on, I think she had other opportunities to go for a d5 idea.
Yeah, like I guess you can't play it here because after knight b7, you can't play
Yeah.
what did and then white played b4 because then I only want to allow the doubled pawns, like I said earlier, for black if you can force white to trade queens. But now that d5 for black would just be hanging if you took with the queen. So, or wait, no, wait, you just play
No, it's
queen
still
takes f3.
doable.
Yeah, it's still doable.
Yeah, it's
What am
still
I?
doable. It's still doable. Not sure how strong it is in this position, but it's still doable. The It can be dangerous to allow white to get this pin and keep this pin on the f6 knight. Sometimes black will play h6 to prevent that, but you always have to be careful. Any of the pawn moves on the king side can have their negative sides, and so here, after this, in fact, I think you don't rush to play bishop f8 before you need to. Maybe that's another principle to keep in mind, is that you can play knight f5 isn't the end of the world. And if you do feel like you need to play bishop e7 or bishop f8 after that, you can. Like getting the d5 in early is imperative. Yeah, otherwise it just on just well, I guess the game actually ended here. Juan played a good game. So let's see what's happening in Jules Billmeyer versus Mitch Ross. Okay. So she plays. Oh, she plays exactly the same. So I mentioned last week that I believed I played her brother at the Roger Hale tournament, and I believe he played. I believe he played the Jobava London against me. I can't remember whether it was this system with knight f3 or whether he went with the f3 based system. But the Jobava is getting so popular that you have to have something in your arsenal against it. Now, I don't know if bishop knight g6 first would have been more accurate here. And then,
can't be bad.
Yeah, and then here, I don't know. It seems as if that might be a way to play it, or maybe even queen d3, giving the position a bit more edge. But okay, she chose this, and here. Oh, now this could be a different kind of spicy. Whoa. Is that legal? This is okay. So
no.
you've got a game.
Castles, no. G5.
So, oh man, I love these games. This is just.
Oh no. Oh, don't do that. Oh.
Oh man. Nice. Very nice. She recovered.
I feel
She
like
recovered very nicely. Yeah.
Were you gonna say she recovered nicely from last week?
Yeah, recovered nicely from last week and recovered nicely in this game because I didn't see. I just thought that playing c3 was a blunder, and that after losing sorry, a piece for 2 pawns, that she'd have her work cut out for her, which I think is still the case. I believe that passing into it was probably not the wisest decision. Maybe something like 95 or 90, yeah, maybe 95, followed by g5 or something like this. I don't know, but maybe even queen d7.
I think maybe you said it, but I missed it. But White's pawn on g4 is hanging. So instead of
Oh yeah,
castling, you
there's
just
that.
play knight takes g4.
Yes, there's that too. Although I suppose this might be no, but then you could play here or
And I found that with the engine's help, I was just going to the master's
oh, okay.
database to once again wondering if this could somehow be crazy prep. But no, this is just completely winning for black. But after castles, it's still completely winning for black, but it gets a bit dicey with g5. And then yeah, once
Yeah,
I mean the game hinged on h takes g5. That's just it goes from
yeah.
completely winning for black to completely losing. So
So, and this is actually not a bad time to summarize, to not summarize, but okay, let's step back and think. If we're commanding the black pieces here, um, what are we what are we doing? So we've got um, we've got a piece for two pawns. We have pawns right up at our grill. Um, with h4 and g5. White can castle either direction. White already has her rook on h1 to help the attack, and maybe we'll castle queenside to get her other rook into the game. But the key thing here is getting those rooks into the game, right? And so that's White getting her rooks into the game. The rooks are only useful when they have open lines. And so maybe our first idea is not to give up any open lines. And also, maybe give some room for a king to escape in case things get too hot over there on the king side. So with that in mind, I think maybe rook c8 is a start.
and then yeah, maybe queen e2 and knight d5.
Yes, here, and then maybe knight d5. And if pawn takes, if you can get if you have the time for it, it might make sense to try and play this first, remove another piece that could cause us harm, and if they capture, maybe we have enough time. Well, actually, we probably have enough time to play this with the understanding that we need to be able to defend the G file immediately. This weak square on the G file in particular. The other possibility is if you can't calculate it all through, is maybe play here, but that's dangerous with this coming.
Yeah, and then yeah, no, I definitely like just taking on h6.
Just take on h6 and have him show you, have her show you what's in the position, because I don't see an automatic win here for
Yeah, or maybe
white.
even king f8. Either
Oh
either
yeah,
move probably works.
get our get our Adidas going. Running over to safety on the queen side or center. Yeah.
Yeah, what's key is that rook fc8 move. I didn't see that. And why that's so key is because if we just play knight h5 first or knight d5 first, then they can potentially take twice with their pawn, kind of like it's
Mm-hmm.
Pac-Man again or Horde. And then after knight
Yes.
h5 takes h6, knight takes f5, they don't have to take our minor piece back. They can just take the other pawn because then they're threatening our rook, and then our king side is just shattered. But since we play rook
Yes.
fc8, like OK pointed out, now they're not threatening that after that line. So I think that's just I think that just would have been the way to go for black.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's one important thing. One important as a defender, it's always your job. Well, number one job is not to get mated if you're defending your king against a mating attack, and one tool is to either avoid opening lines in the vicinity of your king, or if you can't achieve that, reduce the number of open lines. And so with the line we looked at, the key was black only allowed the G file to be opened against his king, which at least gave him a gain of time, because white, unlike what happened in the game, where Jules, after, let me turn it back because it's more fun looking at it from the attacker side. After this, one important difference is now the H file is open and the rook is on the H file without losing tempi. It's right there. And so she's already ahead on time in invading down the H file. And the H file is completely open, like all the way down to H8. So that here, everything is just working. Again, the reason why bishop E5 is so strong is because the H file is already open, threatening rook H8 checkmate, which induces that move. And thanks to the superpowers of en passant, once again, the queen is staring into the depths of black's position, and yeah, Jules just finished this really nicely, I think. And knight d6 is one of those funny moves where, okay, well, it's threatening something, we think. Oh, yeah, it's serving the very important purpose of making sure that square isn't available to the king, so that even after Mitch tries to bat the queen away with rook f8, the important thing is that this square is still unavailable to his king. Sorry about that. Move this back. There we go. And so once the queen gets to the H file, there's no defense, period. Yeah, so as I said, a nice comeback from last week for Jules, and a nice comeback within this game. And that's also another reason why you don't hurry to resign if the position is supposed to be lost, because it's your opponent's job to win it. So let's see. Nate Hoover 2 against.
Yeah, this game unfortunately is not on the DGT. Or is it?
It looks like
this is
there's
this
some
is not
moves. Right. Yeah, this doesn't look correct. Did we see the finish of all the other games though? I'm trying to think if we missed.
Yeah, on board 2, we didn't quite see the finish of Connor and Jordan.
Okay, let's do that. Well, let's start from the top, because I there's some points that I wanted to look at this game. All right, so we were here. Oh yes, this is where Jordan was putting on this masterful squeeze against Connor. And then we had this interesting dance here. And so now what didn't we like about Rook D2? I think we mentioned Rook D2. Oh yeah, and I was looking at this, but then you pointed out that you could play this. Now, if this happens, is this a draw?
You mean like because of threefold, or can we kind of escape to A3 or?
Yeah. So if A3 is not doable, I mean, if A3 works, then fine. But does this now make Black's position stronger.
Yeah, no, I think this black is definitely holding in this position.
Yeah. So and the other, this is what I was wondering about the petition being. Oh, you had mentioned that you could push him back. The only question is this working for him? And I don't know after here that, I mean, there's still a problem of that pawn on a6 and having to deal with a passer on
Yeah, I think
b5.
I think what he was worried about was rook d2 and then king c1. And then
Yeah,
if rook c2, king d1, rook takes sorry, whoops, takes c4, takes c4, rook takes c4, rook takes a6, and white's up a pawn and he has a pass. But maybe that's what he was worried about because Connor is a strong player and he probably didn't miss that.
yeah. But maybe he overestimated White's. I don't know. Maybe black is just really bad here because I don't see how you comfortably keep that pawn from.
Yeah. No, I'm not convinced either that it's winning for white, but this definitely could have scared him because it does look a little
Mhm.
intimidating.
Okay. So, so instead we have this position where, yeah, after bishop c8, it just seems like, um, yeah, and then h4 and bishop e3. This is where all of a sudden it was looking very difficult for Connor. So, what's he going to do? Bishop e6. Oh, Jordan is it's just mean, this Jordan guy. So, yeah, no escape, no mercy. E7. What he can do. So he win here, bishop a7 is one, c7 is probably the most brutal. And yeah, which by the way, I do know that Connor does subscribe to the idea of letting the opponent mate. I think partly out of respect and partly just to see how they go about getting it done. So it's not as if Connor did not see that checkmate coming. So let's see. I think we've covered all the games.
There's two more. I went through them. There's two more that we haven't seen the conclusions of. Next one would be Thomas Babcock and David Alterbauer. So that was the interesting endgame.
Yes. That's the one I said I wanted to come back to. And yeah, this is the one that had that imaginative opening, right? So let's see what happens. So then the exchange gets lost, and he plays rook f8 as you suggested. And so rook b6 comes, and oh my, this is ruh-roh. All right.
I was hasty in saying that the game wouldn't be hasty. I can basically quote
Yes.
myself saying, and this game could still go on for a while. No, it lasted pretty much 4 more moves.
Yes. Oh my. Yeah, but it's in a bad position. It's easy to find bad moves. And I don't even know whether Thomas could have saved himself here. It's just this is just so nasty. That knight is definitely maybe as strong as both rooks combined in this kind of position. And that's not to talk about these guys waiting in reserve if we ever get to an endgame, a proper endgame. See, after this, this was a nice tactic. For those wondering, if rook takes, then the arbiter will be called because, well, if you try to play rook takes f7, rook takes d7, then the arbiter will call because it's against the rules. And so queen takes would be the response. But then you could either do it this way, which is not the greedy way. The greedy way would be this way. And now you just win the queen for free. Basically, well, queen for knight, depending on how he responds. Here, and then that. And then the game is over. So yeah, it was a nice game by Davids. I'm wondering how much of that he knew before the game went, or whether he knew the general idea and then worked out stuff as he went along. Because technically, rook a7 technically would be called a theoretical novelty. The first move in the master database that hasn't been played before. And I think queen b3 has something to be, might be strong. I mean, the fact that the two strong masters played it suggests something, but he made this rook a3 work, rook a7 work. And I thought, well, that rook's going to get trapped, and what's going to happen. And then after that, his play was, without hopefully sounding too cliche, definitely masterful going forward.
No, this was a beautiful game from David's. I mean, I feel like we're seeing there's a lot of games for game of the day, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Because there's not even really a spot where noticeably Thomas went wrong. It's just David's had great opening prep. He had great locations for his pieces, like I was saying earlier. And Thomas just, before you know it, he was just completely strategically bound. But his pieces were just kind of bound, and then David's converted it tactically. So yeah, just a great game.
And just as a reminder of how important it is to have an idea, of the strengths within your position. Who would have thought that we'd get that kind of game from this? Right? You're having the King's Indian being played against b3, and not just b3, the double fianchetto with b3. It's not a weak opening for white, but it doesn't seem fire breathing. And then from this, you get this. It's just really, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too excited about it, but I guess, and maybe the fact that I like seeing the ready type positions getting the job done also fills me with some joy.
Yeah, another thing about this game is White getting rid of his dark squid bishop. Like, this is just all part of excellent. Like, this is almost like a textbook game. Because like bishop takes b4, and I'm kind of trying to go out of my way to find compliments for White, but that's not that hard. Like, this is just such a great game because basically all of White's pieces are great. Obviously, besides the rook on a7, and I'm looking at move 15, by the way. All of White's pieces are great besides the rook on a7, but don't worry, we're going to save it. And then the bishop on a3 is the only other kind of suspect piece because back on b2, it was just staring at the mini pawn wall on e5 and d6. But then we trade it, and not only once we trade it, we're able to get our other rook out. And then once that happened, David's just converted.
And we missed it's maybe not an important point, but after queen here and then bishop here, taking the rook immediately just gives the exchange back.
Yeah, yep. Beautiful.
Yes, this is just and not only gives exchange back, but allows us to see one of the weirdest constructs in chess. It's like a weird Rubik cube of black pieces stepping on each other's toes over there. right. So okay, so that seems like yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to give one game of the week. I think there are just multiple very fine games, and depending on what flavor of chess you like, there was something for everybody here. Um, Dane's game against Nate also deserves special mention, and of course, one has to remember that Nate is typically playing a simul, but and that's a handicap he chooses, and that cannot be used as um, a reason because he plays. I mean, he's won both. I think the last 2 3 months he's been scoring well in spite of playing these simuls. So the simul, I don't think is a true handicap for him at this point.
No.
All right. Anything we're missing? No, I think we've got all the games. Any announcements, maybe regarding our sponsors?
Yeah, no, I would just refer people over to, first of all, our Castle Discord. You can make sure to check out that page. Sometimes we'll post things there occasionally, but definitely check that out. You can see, get the link in the description. Also, this stream is always sponsored by Chess Goals. Chess Goals. They're simple chess courses for non-grandmasters. You can learn complete repertoires in under 100 lines, and you can get 30% off if you use the coupon code CASTLE. So check that out. And then our other sponsorship is Webeccentric and shop.webeccentric.com. Excuse me. Webeccentric is empowering small businesses and startups through tailored digital solutions. Webeccentric specializes in custom web development, cloud solutions, and digital strategy for small businesses. With over 25 years of experience, Webeccentric brings enterprise-level expertise to businesses of all sizes. We're here to help. Reach us at webeccentric.com and shop with us at shop.webeccentric.com. So thank you once again to our sponsors, Webeccentric and Chess Goals.
Cool.
And yeah, you can see that on the screen there, the different merch. Some of it's like a hoodie, some of it's just plain shirts, and some of it's, more hats and mugs. But there's a lot there to check out. So please do check that out and support the castle there. And yeah, I believe that is it. We
Okay.
definitely had a lot of cool games tonight, but I agree with what you said. Okay, there's not really a game you can pick for game of the week because we just had so many great nominees.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And there's something for everyone. Every style of chess was represented here. And of course, thanks to people who were on the wrong side of those games, because every game is a dance that requires two partners, and happy everybody came out to play. So, okay, let's wrap it up. And I guess so. Next week, it looks like next week is going to be Dane's coronation as champion of the month of October, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think, well, he's already clinched at least a tie for first because I know he's a point ahead of Jordan. So
Okay.
definitely it'll be eager to watch Dane to see if he can go 5-0, which, there's only a certain number of months in each year that have 5 weeks, and especially with a field this strong, if he could go 5-0, that'd be impressive.
Yes, quite so. All right. Well, I'm signing off, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.